You're watching the Fantasy Rankings Report only on Fantasy Now Plus. To the Fantasy Rankings Report, my name is Topher Kurt, but you can call me Topher, and I'm here with my co-host, Michael. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing all right. At the start of this recording, which, hold on, let me fact check this really quick. Yeah, the Bears are number one in the division and the second seed in the conference. So I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I was at that game. I liked everything until the last 5 minutes of regulation and overtime. And then once overtime hit, I just knew. I was like, nope, momentum's going way too much in their way. Green Bay's had too many injuries, too many big mistakes that they shouldn't have had late. They just mentally lost it, and clearly that's where we are. So yeah, it was a good game.
Give me the vibes of the stadium, though.
I will tell you, when it got to the fourth quarter, it was pretty dead. It was pretty dead, but you could hear some "Go Pack Go" chants going, and I really liked that. And their main chant wasn't like "Let's go Bears." It was "Packers suck." So the whole time, besides that, right at the end, the Packers were in the lead, and I just kept going, check the scoreboard, right back to them. They didn't like that for some reason. So, and I'm surprised
at the end.
Yeah, nobody told me that at the end. They were all jumping around, and I had a giant winter coat, so it covered up my Jordan Love jersey. So then on my way out, I could go incognito. People were like, high fives. And I was like, no, sorry, bro. Not.
Hey, Toyota's got to end eventually.
I hope not. We've got, you know what? I've talked about this before, how there are similarities to the Packers Super Bowl season last time, 2010-11 season, to this year. Guess who won the division that year? The Chicago Bears. Guess who squeaked into the playoffs as the last seed? The Packers. Guess what's going to happen this year? Barring anything crazy. Woo! And as you can tell, listener, I am at the top of my game. I middle school and high school teacher. On Wednesday last week, 62 middle school students were sent home from school for being sick just during one school day. Not that they were gone. 62 additional students were called out and sent home by the nurse. So I've been gifted their flu, and this is the most I've done since I got back from Chicago. On Sunday, I felt and looked like death, and so had to self-travel. If you've ever been sick in an airport, you know exactly how I felt. It was one of the longest moments of my life, and then I had to drive 2 hours home in the dark after flying back. So Wednesday through today, I've literally been on the couch recuperating, and me sitting up right now makes me dizzy. It's so much fun. So hopefully I don't pass out on this. Speaking of passing out, if I do pass out, we are not live today. So we can edit that. We can edit that. Whiplash. Woo. So again, we are not live today, and I will make sure to throw up a couple of comments that are like, hey, not live. Just a reminder, if you're asking start-sit questions, they're going to sit right there in the comment section. So, but we hope you're having a wonderful Christmas Eve, holiday season, whatever you're celebrating. Okay. So let's go to, before I do that, I do need to mention to you that the show is brought to you by Fantasy Now Plus and the Finns Talk Sports Network, and that you should subscribe to both channels. The links are in our description. Also, Underdog Fantasy, you can play with them. New users get You pay $5 and you get $100 in bonus funds by using the promo code FN Plus. And I've won multiple times with bonus funds, and you get that money back in actual money. You don't just win more bonus funds. The bonus funds are just a platform for you to make bets and build off of it. Make some safe bets where you put down a bet for $5 and you win 20. You just got 20 free dollars and bet nothing. Like, it's well worth it. Okay, enough of me talking. Ranking question of the day, first segment. In this segment, Topher and Michael will ask each other questions about rankings in any way, shape, or form. We can stick to our area of expertise or talk about a different position. And since this is our last season show, because this is championship week, and if you are in week 18 championship leagues, that's something that you need to address some sort of deity about, because this is a holiday season where all deities matter. Jesus, Buddha, Super Mario, Zelda, whatever you believe in. Exercise week 18 from you. So I do want to ask, who are 2 players in your positions of expertise that will win people championships this week? Go and give me one of your guys.
I actually really like this because I think it's going to be a pretty good week for a lot of running backs, actually. And I'll talk about some of them actually this episode. But I'm going to go, since you're asking, I'm going to go out and there's one that I'm going to talk about in a little while, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But I really like Ramondre Stevenson this week. And I talk crap about him all year. I'm not saying he's going to end up as RB1 or anything, but I think if people had to play him with if Henderson's out, I kind of like Stevenson this week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like if Henderson is out. Okay.
If Henderson's out. If Henderson is not out, then absolutely don't even let him sniff your roster. But if Henderson is out, which he was seen at practice today, but the report didn't say anything about actually participating. But if he's out, I actually really do like Ramondre Stevenson this week.
Yeah. I like that. My first guy, I think it's obvious. This one's super obvious. It's Puka Nacua. I mean, over the past 4 weeks in half-point PPR, he has had 26.6 points per game. The wide receiver 2 in points per game in that same time span is T. Higgins with 18.5. He is literally 8+ points over per game over the second best wide receiver right there. He is just annihilating people. It's insane. He single-handedly got me to a championship this week. Just absolutely. I had 3 Packers on my team. Love, Watson, and Jacobs. They all crapped the bed, and without Puka Nacua, I wouldn't be in the ship right now. So he's my easy one. Just like if you are facing Puka, say your prayers. I mean, you better be ready. Now, also, if you have Puka, don't just be relying on Puka. When Alvin Kamara scored 6 touchdowns on Christmas Day, guess who had Alvin Kamara on his team and lost the championship?
No.
Absolutely. I still lost that week. It was one of the most heart-wrenching things I've ever experienced in my life. Just going in and being like, yep, I got this in the bag. And yep, and losing after Alvin Kamara did that. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So don't rely. Be excited about Puka because he's going to be your backbone, but don't fully rely on him.
That's rough. But no, I like it. I mean, I feel like, yeah, Puka may be an obvious grab, but I mean, he is on fire right now, and they're looking to try to lock up the division and the number 1 seed. I mean, they're going to rely on him a lot for sure.
Yes.
Awesome.
You got another one or no?
Yeah, so I do actually have a few that I like. another one I think is a little obvious, but not really going to be one that I think people were thinking that it's going to be a championship winning one. Is Ashton Jancy. Um,
Oh,
he's going up against the Giants, and I'm going to talk about him in a little bit as well. But he looked fantastic this last week. I mean, he absolutely went off. And then using that momentum and everything going into this week against the Giants, I mean, they're the second worst rush defense. He has a chance to really absolutely just probably bring one home for someone.
yeah. I agree with that. Living the dream right here with all the coughing and crap. My other one that I think could really help people out. It's kind of a that's not the right tab, is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, sorry. The other one that I think could really win people championships this week, which is it's kind of an odd one, but I'm running with it, is Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, because they're playing Dallas. Dallas gives up the most fantasy points to the wide receiver. I feel like Deebo gives a lot, has a lot of opportunity here. And they're playing with Josh Johnson, third string quarterback. Actually, let me take that back because Deebo is not a good choice because of the third string quarterback. I lied, people. Ignore that. This is where we edit. Yep. It's a flu getting me. Yeah. I'm going to say, where did that? I wrote this down. So, that's who it is. Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings. That's who I wanted to talk about. Juwan Jennings. They're playing the Bears. And this is kind of a very interesting matchup seeding wise. It could be a matchup that if San Fran wins and Chicago loses, that they could easily end up playing each other in the first round of the playoffs if the Bears continue to hold on to the division title, which I think that they will. So this could be a wild card preview round. And Juwan Jennings has not been overly crazy with yardage lately, but he has had 7 touchdowns in his last 7 games. He's going to continue to be that consistent threat for Brock Purdy, and he's not crazy, but he's not somebody that you draft it to be scoring a touchdown every week. And he just is. He's just going to score another touchdown this week. His yardage was 71. He had 5 receptions for 71 yards last week. His highest on the season is 89. And I feel like he could have 100 yards this week. That's why I wanted to talk about him. That's where my brain was 49er. I went Deebo for a second. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Yes. So, of course, after I'm talking about this, I found where I wrote it down. So, go me. Okay, let's talk about our steady and safe. One of the 2 main parts of our show. This part of the show is where we each highlight 3 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus agrees on. So we're looking at players with typically small ranges that a lot of the consensus, the rankers that we use, they all agree upon. They all like these guys. We might not totally love them, but where they're ranked, the consensus agrees on it. So we can kind of talk and we put our own input on it as well. Michael, go lead us off on this one.
Absolutely. So all 3 of my guys, well, this first one is going to be a normal smaller range that we usually get in steady and safe, but everywhere in the RB2 tier and on, the range was pretty high. So I'm going to have a couple 8 guys in there this week as well. But my first guy I'm going with is Kyren Williams. It's RB13, range of 4, anywhere between 11-15. And he actually did well versus Seattle. So he had 70 rushing yards, even had 6 targets, only caught 3 of them. And he finished with 11.5 points. Seattle's got a really good defense. For him to put up an 11.5 point game against them just casually, kind of. I like his chances with ATL next. Leading up to last week's game too, he finished as an RB8 in both weeks. And then now he's going to get to face a bottom 10 rush defense in Atlanta, who's on top of that, since he does periodically see some targets, they're allowing almost about 30 receiving yards to running backs as well. So there goes another 3 points for you right there. I think this is a fantastic matchup for him. I like him going up against ATL. And we're just talking championships. This is one of the many guys that I think is going to have a great week this week. I really do like a lot of running back matchups this week.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, he doesn't. I'm with you there. My first wide receiver in the steady and safe category is Deebo Samuel. So again, he was in my document later. Okay, wide receiver 30, range of 3. Now, here's something that I want to talk to you about. Yes, we did allude to earlier that they're playing the Dallas Cowboys and that their defense is the best for a wide receiver to play fantasy-wise. Out of 16 weeks, they give up the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position per game. It's pretty incredible. However, something that you should start to look at and notice is that Deebo Samuel has had 45 or less yards in his last 7 of 9 games. Obviously, Jane Daniels being in can help. It does help. But them going to third string journeyman Josh Johnson right there, not going to help a whole lot. He might get a little bit more, but for being ranked wide receiver 30, and if I'm in the championship and I have Deebo Samuel, no, I'm genuinely going and putting him on my bench. Or if there's a better option out there, I'm gonna just figure out how to get that better option on my team. Because when it's the championship, there's obviously you want to play smart, but you also want to play for the gold. You've got to kind of gun it. And Deebo Samuel is not going to give you any crazy amount of upside that you want. So wide receiver 30, even though he's got a range of 3 amongst the experts, he's not in any of my starting 3 wide receiver positions, probably not my flex either.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I mean, it's rough when you're down to third string quarterback at that point. I mean, you can have a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase. I mean, you really don't know if you're going to be able to get their ceiling with a backup like that. But my second guy, I'm going DeAndre Swift. So he's RB19. Now this is one of the 2 guys that I said had a bit larger range. He's got a range of 8, anywhere between 16 and 24. And honestly, he's been playing pretty solid since his injury in week 9 that he did it when he didn't play. Now he's only really had 1 bad game since, and that's when against the Steelers, which he pretty much did nothing. Other than that, his worst games, he's gotten at least 9 fantasy points since. He rushed for 58 yards versus Green Bay, added 2 catches. So it was nothing crazy, but San Francisco is next, and they are a slightly better run defense than Green Bay, who's, even though people have been running on them lately, they still are in the top 10 of rush defenses. And San Francisco is just right above them by a couple spots. And they did well last week, allowing only 58 rushing yards to Jonathan Taylor and the Colts. But even with that happening over the past 3 games, they're still allowing almost 111 rushing yards over the last 3 games. So right now, both teams, you would just kind of mentioned it, both teams are looking to really make a big push here. This is a big game for both teams, really. So I'm looking for the Bears to really try to cash in on the run game. I like DeAndre Swift, but I don't know if I'm strong there with the consensus saying he's a must start.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you there. But he's also gotten you probably here.
Yeah.
And you do want to play the guys that you don't want to take so much of a left turn from the guys that have gotten you to the championship. So
yeah,
but I get what you're saying. Absolutely. My next wide receiver for steady and safe is Romeo Dobbs, wide receiver 45 with a range of 3. Now, Romeo Dobbs as a flex play, he's been a little in and out of consistency with the Packers as of late. His first half of the season was pretty darn good. His second half wasn't great, but against the Bears, he just became that main target. He was boom, boom, was really connecting with Love, with Willis, and now they're both out. And that's a big problem because it might be Clayton Tune that's playing. Willis has a shoulder injury and is out with illness. He missed practice not just because of his shoulder, but he was also sick today. Jordan Love can't play unless if he's really verified by a neurologist saying, hey, you are okay to play. That's on Saturday. Like their game's not on Sunday. They get kind of one less day to do that. So Romeo Dobbs, I feel like he's very much a Deebo Samuel situation. They're both kind of a secondary, tertiary option in the receiving core. Might not even be on the team, just in the core, and we'll have some good weeks and bad weeks. But that's probably why a lot of experts at this time have them closely ranked, is because we feel comfortable. Like consensus is right around here with Romeo. We'll just put him there. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily trust him, especially after, yes, he had a spike week this week, but before that, he hadn't had a really, playable week. He had a touchdown one week, but he hadn't really had a playable week on just yardage since week 9. So.
Yeah, you got Malik Willis, you got Topher Kurt, both catching the flu at Sunday's game, man, or Saturday's game.
Yep.
It's rough. It's rough out here. All right, my last steady and safe guy. This was another one that had a range of 8, and that was one of the lower ranges, anywhere in the 2, 3 RB tiers. And that's Amarian Hampton. He's RB 17. Like I said, range of 8. They have him anywhere between 15 and 23. Now he's only been back for about 3 games, and he has done well since missing most of the year with injury. He's coming off a game against Dallas where he had 85 rushing yards and a single catch for 10 yards. But Houston's up next, and Houston is a top 5 rush defense. But remember when I was saying that J&T just coming off a really good game? That was against Houston. He had 128 rushing yards on them, and was it like a 60-yard touchdown, receiving touchdown, which I'll get into fairly quickly, actually. But I like Amarian Hampton's chances here. Even though Houston has the top 5 rush defense, they've just been slowing down a little bit. But this is going to be interesting to see if Hampton really is back. Not that it matters after this week, but at least we'll know if he can run again.
Yeah, that's true. I'd like him to get healthy, and hopefully we see him next season back at where we've seen him at. Then my third steady and safe wide receiver had a range of 2, which is crazy small. Darius Slayton, wide receiver 47. And he's one that I guess all my steady and safes right here were, again, the experts like him. I don't like Darius Slayton. In week 15, he had 10 targets. And then last week he had 2. And throughout the season, he's had 3, 2, 4, 7, 5, 6, 4, 4, 3, 1. It's not been consistent. There's no consistency going on with Darius Slayton. And he's had a couple games. He's had 3 games above 60 yards, but none of that has happened since week 10. And he's only scored 1 touchdown on the season, which was week 13, which has no relevance because it was week 13. So what? Like that touchdown could have been happening any time. They do play the Las Vegas Raiders this week, but that's literally the toilet bowl. It is the matchup for the number 1 overall pick. So if you feel like, okay, I've got to shoot my shot with somebody, then maybe Darius Slayton. But I'm looking right here on Fantasy Pros of just some people like Mac Hollins is on my waiver wire. Mac Hollins is somebody that you can grab, that I would grab instead. Let's see. Look at it. Frank, stop. Yeah. I might have to let him out of this room because he decided to come sit in here and then be loud. So yeah, so I would maybe look at my waiver wire or look at what else can I do in my flex instead of Darius Slayton. Because if you have to start him in a championship week, you better have Puka Nacua on your team. Okay. Experts against experts. This is the part of the show where we each highlight 5 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus disagrees on. We will each talk about one from each of our tiers. For example, wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're each in tiers of 12. I want to talk this week about Drake London. Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons is facing the Los Angeles Rams, and he is currently wide receiver 12. He's got a range of 9. His highest is ranking is 7. His lowest rank is 16. And just before I forget, this is not a live podcast. So if you are, or live show, so if you're commenting things and we're not replying, we're not ignoring you on purpose. We're just not live. Now Drake London has had an interesting season. He had 3 weeks where it was really rough on him at first. He was just getting about 50 yards a game. And then he exploded. And in his last 5 out of 6 games before his injury, he had over 100 yards. Last week, he came back for the first time since week 11. He had 8 targets, 3 receptions, 27 yards. Nothing spectacular and special, but he was coming back. And it's just kind of hard to kind of gather and watch what's happening here, because he should be somebody that if you've made it to the playoffs without him, the championship without him, then you've done some really good stuff, and hopefully he pans out for you. Because when he has been playing throughout the season, he has had 32% of the targets, 41% of the air yards, and 53% of the end zone targets for the Atlanta Falcons. And those are all really good things. Now, when it comes to playing the Los Angeles Rams wide receivers, they give up the Los Angeles defense, they give up the 8th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. 8th most. So, last week, they gave up 96 yards to JSN. Then the week before that, they gave up 134 and 164 to Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The week before, gave up 142 to Michael Wilson. In week 11, gave up 105 to JSN. Week 13, gave up 74 to Jalen Coker. Week 5, let Kendrick Bourne have his 10 reception, 142-yard game. Like this Rams secondary is not stopping the wide receiver position, and that can fare well for Drake London, as we've been seeing how good he has been. Now, we also have to see how does that come back with Kirk Cousins at the helm and with them out of the playoff hunt and all of those things. But I think Drake London should be, even though he's wide receiver 12, he's practicing this week. He should be in your lineup. It's just a weird one because of the injury and the end of the season that's coming up. So I'd be surprised if a whole lot of people had him on their team and are in the playoffs now. But stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I like it. So this is one guy I said earlier that I was going to talk about, and that's Ashton Genty. He's my RB1 tier guy. But like I was saying earlier, these ranges are insane. So the consensus has him as an RB10, but his range is 7 to 26. That's
Oh my
19
gosh.
spots in the RB1 tier. That's anywhere between being a mid tier 1 to mid tier 2. Like he's all over the place. And
It's
that's coming off
crazy.
a week where he finishes RB3 versus this Houston rush defense, who I just said is top 5 in the league. At 128 rushing yards on 24 attempts. His longest was 11 yards, so it wasn't like he had one big rush against them and then the yards just packed on from there. No, he was just consistently running on them. Had a rushing touchdown. He had one reception for 60 yards. That one wouldn't for a touchdown. He had 31.8 PPR points this past week. He looked fantastic, and he needed it. That was his best game since pretty much against the Bears in week 4, where he had 138 rushing yards, a rush touchdown, but then he had 2 receiving touchdowns, and that was still just over 33 and a half PPR points. So he's had 2 games now this season where he absolutely did go off. His ceiling's very high, and I like him. I like him this week. It's perfect momentum and confidence boost before playing the second worst rush D in the Giants. And when I say they're bad, I mean they're bad, man. They're allowing 150.9 rushing yards per game this season.
Wow.
They they suck, man. It is what it is, and this is a great week for Janty to go win you a championship. He's had a rough year overall, I would say, but man, he can really finish this strong and really go out there and get you a championship this week.
And I hope he does. I hope he does. Just like that offensive line, that organization, just, can you imagine being like, yes, I've wanted to play in the NFL my whole life, and you get drafted by the Raiders or the Browns or the Cardinals, just like these perpetually awful franchises that it's like, oh that would hurt my soul. My wide receiver 2 category guy is DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears at wide receiver 20. He has a range of 14 from wide receiver 15 to wide receiver 29. Now, he's been something else this season. He has kind of disappeared a lot of the time. But when he hits, he hits. He's been very much throughout the season. He's had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 6 games with 60 or more yards. Everything else has been below that. So that's not great. Not something that you're coming into your fantasy season wanting. But his last 2 games, he scored 3 touchdowns. On the season, he is, let's see, where did that go? He is wide receiver 37 in fantasy points per game on the season, but over the past 4 weeks, he is wide receiver 26. So he's gone up in that aspect. And if you watch that Saturday night game, that he made a spectacular catch in the end zone, did a wonderful job. Part of this has to do with Rome Odunze being out. And Rome Odunze looks like he's not going to be back playing on the field until the Bears start their playoff run. So you also have to take into consideration Luther Burden, who hurt his foot against the Browns. And then in week 15, didn't play last week against the Packers. He's questionable right now. He was limited at practice today, but we don't know if he's going to be playing or not. We pretty much know that Rome Odunze will not be. That opens things up for DJ Moore in a game that we've already articulated that could be really, really interesting for the Bears and 49ers. They have a lot to play for. Both teams do have a lot to play for, even though they both clinched playoff berths at this point. And DJ Moore could be the guy that helps keep things under wraps for the Bears and helps them explode. And again, he could also, the week before that, last time they played Green Bay in week 14, just 2 weeks before what he did last week, he had three targets, 1 reception for -4 yards. Like he literally had 0.1 points if you're in half-point PPR league, versus the past 2 weeks after that, 20 and 23 points. That's the kind of thing that you're getting with DJ Moore. That's what you're getting with DJ Moore. But if you're in a championship league, you want to go for that upside. You want to go for the guy that's gonna score you those touchdowns and seal the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. How great was it that catch was on Nixon too? I think that was perfect. Perfect storybook ending. It's great. I loved it. I don't know about you.
I'm glad you did. I'm so happy for you.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But we must have been sharing notes or something, because my next guy is Josh Jacobs. And he is RB16. And again, with these crazy consensus rankings this week, his range is 16, anywhere between 9 and 25. So they have him as a lower end RB1 tier to a high end RB3 tier. They are very unsure on him, and to be honest, I kind of understand it this week. He's coming off a rough fantasy week against Chicago. 4.8 points. He only had 36 rushing yards on 12 attempts. He did have 2 receptions for 12 yards, but that's where it ended. Nothing else happened outside of that. He is facing a much better rush defense in Baltimore. I was really surprised by this. Like, I know Baltimore has a good defense, but they have been phenomenal the last 3 weeks. They're only allowing an average of 71 yards combined. Nowadays, you're getting, a quarterback that's rushing for 30, 40 yards. Your running backs, rushing for 50, 60. They were able to hold off an average of 71 rushing yards a game over the last 3 weeks. They look pretty good. But again, it's Green Bay. It is December. Packers are looking for a playoff spot. They're going to need to rely on him. Is he playing this week, though? I'm not 100% sure. He was limited at practice today, but Jacobs is a beast of a man. This guy plays through a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there and plays, because they need him. This is a guy that, depending on what your other running back situation looks like, you might have to just wait until final injury report comes out on whether or not you do bench him. But it's Josh Jacobs looking for a playoff spot. I do like him here.
Yeah, I think you have to play him no matter what. If he's starting, you play him no matter what. But I've learned to make sure that with my running backs, I just kind of, in dynasty format, I definitely get their handcuffs and I keep them for years. So I've had Emmanuel Wilson for a while. I also have Bucky Irving. So I've had Sean Tucker and Rashid White on my bench for a while. So I've got that safety net. Hopefully,
I like it.
Josh Jacobs can hit the end zone. That's really what you want with Josh Jacobs if he's playing, especially with the quarterback situation. Who knows? Here's another NFC North player that makes you go, oh, when you hear that they are wide receiver 3 tier. Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is currently ranked wide receiver 26. He's got a range of 16, highest of 19, lowest of 35, which is just sickening to say, because he's so talented, and he's so good. But when you are examining his season, Justin Jefferson currently is wide receiver 40 in fantasy points per game throughout the season. Wide receiver 40, you all. He has a lower fantasy points per game than Marvin Harrison Jr., if that makes you feel any better. It shouldn't. Over the past 4 weeks, wide receiver 77. Wide receiver 77 in fantasy points per game. The wide receivers right above him are Malik Washington, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Jack Besh, David Sills, Tim Patrick, Marvin Mims, and Buka. Isaiah Williams is above all of those names. It's been a disgusting route for Justin Jefferson. And he now has to trust his week 17 in the hands of UDFA. What's his name? Max Brosmer. QB Max Brosmer. Justin Jefferson is now going to miss his 7th game of the season due to a hand injury. Last week, Justin Jefferson had 6 receptions for 85 yards. You know, there's a Christmas miracle hoping to be happened. And tomorrow, speaking of Christmas miracle, you're going to need one from Justin Jefferson. However, I'm looking at directly from what Sleeper's saying right here. This superstar has routinely torched the Lions in his career, gaining more than 1,200 receiving yards and scoring 5 touchdowns against them in 11 games. That's impressive. That's so impressive. Detroit ranks dead last in NFL in air yards allowed, so the matchup would be a good one for Justin Jefferson because they allow the most air yards. They allow the most air yards to their wide receiver position. And Jordan Mason is out. So they're going to have to rely on a hurt Aaron Jones and Max Brosmer to make sure that Justin Jefferson can succeed. And that worries me. That worries me a lot. Because if you have been playing Justin Jefferson, he has had, since week 9, 47, 37, 61, 48, 4, 11, 22, 85. Those are his yardage totals since week 9. Ugh. It's bad. This is, if you're in a championship with Justin Jefferson on your team, props to you because he didn't get you there.
Yeah, I think we need to just all get together, team up, and find a way for him to get out of this conference so that way he can go excel somewhere else.
Yes, he can go, or he could go excel in Green Bay.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Anyway, my next guy is someone I mentioned earlier that was, I really like him this week, even though I've talked crap about him all season. That's Ramondre Stevenson. He's RB25, but his range is 28. He's anywhere between 14 and 42. So a high end 2 guy or mid-level tier 4 guy, which again, absolutely crazy that we're going into championship week with these crazy ranges right now. But he had to be the workhorse after Henderson left with a concussion last week. And he did well. He finished top 15 running back with almost 18 points. You know, Henderson was spotted at practice today, but that's really all the reports said. You know, I'm not sure if he is going to play this week or not, but if he does not play, Stevenson might be the guy this week, man. They're facing the Jets, who are just terrible. Bottom 5 rush defense. Yeah, they did pretty good last week, and that's they have allowing only 84 yards last week, but over the last 3 games, they're giving up an average of 143.7 rushing yards. This is the perfect matchup for Stevenson. Honestly, I'm putting it out there. This might be a terrible take. We'll find out. by Monday, but I like Stevenson to really do something this week if Henderson is out.
If Henderson is out is definitely the caveat. But yeah, playing playing the Jets, absolutely. Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson should definitely get that workload and run away with it. Good. My wide receiver 4 tier right here is Josh Downs. Josh Downs of the Indianapolis Colts, somebody that a lot of us in the offseason were saying was going to be the breakout star in Indianapolis, or some of us were just saying Alec Pierce because he did way better last season and he's doing way better this season. But I'll get off my stool right there of being right. Josh Downs is wide receiver 48 with a range of 13. His high is 40. His lowest is 53. And something that's happened a little bit is that he last week seemed to connect with Philip Rivers a little bit more. The week before, he was the touchdown recipient from Philip Rivers. He had 5 receptions for 65 yards last week, and on 9 targets, a season high for him, 9 targets. Let's see. So I think right here, Josh Downs he's risky because Philip Rivers is risky. And because he's definitely he's like the 5th target on that team. Because I would say he's behind Alex and Michael Pittman and Tyler Warden and Jonathan Taylor. But, I mean, let's look right here. And let's see, over the past, week 15 and 16. Week 15 and 16, Josh Downs has had the 2nd most targets on the Colts. And those are the 2 weeks that Philip Rivers has played. So that's why I'm narrowing it down to those 2. Also, reminder, we're not live right now. So just a reminder, this is pre-recorded. Josh Downs has 22% target share over that time. Only Tyler Warren has a higher one of 23% target share. Josh Downs has the highest air yardage percentage of 29%. And the only person that has an end zone target share of, according to Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life website, is Alec Pierce. Otherwise, everybody else has 0. But he is essentially leading the team in targets and in air yards over Philip Rivers 2 game. Alec Pierce only has an 8% target share during that time. So Michael Pittman, 17%. So there might be a little connection that could help out. He is not somebody that I'm excited starting, but I would start him over Justin Jefferson this week, which hurts to say.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'd probably start maybe not over Deebo Samuel from my steady and safe, but I'd start Josh Downs over Romeo Doubs and Darius Slayton from my steady and safe earlier today. So that's how it's not great, but that's why we're looking at each tier, because some of you are going to have to make these decisions of who do I play? Josh Downs, Xavier Worthy, Trey Tucker, a couple of these guys that you're like, oh, I don't like this. But he, I think, can provide maybe a steady floor. Plus, they're playing Jacksonville. They're going to have to pass. They're going to have to pass against Jacksonville. I do need to tell you, how did the Jacksonville Jags do against wide receivers? They give up the 13th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So, and last week, they gave up 86, 66, and 42 receiving yards to Sutton, Franklin, and Bryant of the Denver Broncos. The week before, they gave up 58 and 53 yards to Adonai Mitchell and Isaiah Williams. So they do have the possibility. Oh, they did play in week 14. So they did play in week 14. Pittman had 79 yards. Pierce had 80 yards. Downs had 23 yards. But with Rivers at the helm, that could easily be Josh Downs getting 80 yards over one of the other two. So I think that there's a possibility that Josh Downs could be helpful to your team.
Yeah, I like that because we do know that Rivers is starting now. I know at the end of last week, it was a toss up. Like, do you even play him? What's the point? But they did announce him as Rivers as starter this week, and that kind of does change whether or not an Indiana or an Indianapolis receiver has any effect in your potential championship game.
Because
So
I've got Alec Pierce and Christian Watson as my here's the one choice that I really have to struggle with is that. And in these rankings right here, Watson is 29, Alec Pierce is 36, but Watson has a range of 12, and his highest is 28 and his lowest is 40. Pierce has a range of 7, 33 is his highest, but 40 is his lowest. But we've also seen Pierce do wonderful things with Rivers in the short time. We've also seen Christian Watson. We don't know what he's going to do. We don't know what he will do if Jordan Love's not there. We don't know what the Packers will necessarily do. It's scary, y'all, when you've got that when you've got that on the line and you're like, okay, this is what life is offering me. Where do you go with it? Where do you run with it? I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So RB4 tier, if you're using anybody from the RB4 tier on and you're in the championship, more power to you. I mean, I'm happy for you. But going through the list, there really isn't anyone I think that can drastically help your championship team this week. But there is one guy in the RB4 tier that is making his debut on it that I just wanted to briefly touch on for the dynasty people out there that may be listening. And that's Raheem Sanders, listed at RB40. Now his range is great. His range is anywhere between 32 and 46, but he came in last week after Judkins had to be carted off, and yeah, Travion Williams may have handled more of the receiving plays, but Sanders outrushed him. He outrushed him 11-6 in the second half, and for redraft leagues, probably means nothing for you this upcoming week. Probably means really nothing for you at all. But for the dynasty guys, this might be a guy to watch out to see is this someone I want to look at value moving forward. Dylan Sampson isn't really being used well as a backup, in my opinion. And they're going to have a pretty large running back room. I think this is a guy that you can watch for future use if potentially necessary, whether he's trade bait or something, and then you can use him in dynasty moving forward. But honestly, anybody between in the RB4, 5, and 6 tier, if you got to use them, I hope the rest of your guys look amazing. But that's just where we're at here at this point of the season.
Yeah, it's tough. Absolutely, I wouldn't. If you're in your championship and that's where you're at, again, great job. Good luck. Not a whole lot that we can do that's gonna to change that for you. Wide receiver 5 tier, and again, some leagues have 5 wide receiver possibilities. My league that I'm in the championship with, my main league, we have 3 wide receiver, 2 running back, tight end, and 2 flex positions. So this comes down to maybe one of these guys actually is starting for you. I want to talk about the guy that had the biggest range, which was Trey Tucker of the Las Vegas Raiders. He's wide receiver 52. He's got a high of 38 and a low of 63. And his range was 25. Ginormous range. He's operating as the Raiders wide receiver 1 since Jacoby Myers left. And he had a really big game week 3, and people were like, really happy with him that week because, no, let's be real, I don't think anybody started him. Nobody should have been starting him. And then he had, week 5, week 6, he had 62 and 70 yards. And then from there, he's only had 2 games above 40 yards since week 7. Only 2 games above 40 yards. And one of them came against Houston last week. They play the Giants this week. The Giants are going to give you opportunities, but Trey Tucker's and that offense is just not going to capitalize on it. The Giants give up the 5th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position, but when you've got what's going on at the QB position there, Jordan Addison last week only had 2 receptions for 26 yards. Like there's not, even though defense can be easy to play against, when you don't have an offense to beat that defense, there's nothing you can do about it. So Trey Tucker, I'm surprised he's even at ranked wide receiver 52, but it's rough down here. It's rough. So if you've made it this far with some rough teams, good for you. Good for you. Otherwise, I think that's it for us. Yeah. Well, and this is kind of the last week, as we talked about. So I do want to say thank you to everybody that has watched us throughout the season. We've had a lot of fun. I've had a blast working with Michael, and hopefully he's had a blast working with me. And we really appreciate what you've done as viewers and listeners and all that fun stuff. We definitely plan on running it back next year and popping up with Fantasy Now Plus through other things throughout the off season and getting into our the next season. You got anything, Michael?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for a really good season. It's been fun. I hope you guys made it to the championship. Let us know the outcome. If you guys took any of your advice and it worked for you, shoot us a message. Let us know. If it didn't, shoot a message. Let us know. We want to hear where we hit, where we miss.
So if it went well, message me. If it didn't, message Michael.
Yeah, send them all my way. Names right there. Send them my way. I want to hear them all. But yeah, I mean, it's been a blast, Topher. Thank you for everything. But I hope you win your championship and go Bears.
Ugh. We can edit that last part out, right? Please. Okay. Okay. Again, have a wonderful holiday season. Win your championship and enjoy your last week of the fantasy playoffs and the fantasy season, which is crazy. Okay. Deuces, y'all. Go Pecco.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.